drowning in a sea of, like, I don't know, websites, you know, desperately wishing for a research assistant who could just, like, instantly pull up verified stats.
Oh, tell me about it. Especially late at night when I'm trying to fact check those debates. It would certainly make things easier.
Seriously. Can you imagine if, like, Google was working on that?
What, like an AI fact checker?
Exactly. They're, like, trying to link AI to their massive data commons database to do just that.
Huh?
And there's a paper just out, like, this month,
Oh, wow. This month.
September 2024.
Wow, so new. And it's interesting because it is a really big problem in AI. Large language models, LLMs, those are the brains behind all these chatbots everyone is talking about. They can sound so confident, even when they're just making stuff up,
Yeah.
especially with numbers.
Ugh, yes. I actually had a chatbot tell me that the population of Tokyo was like 2 billion people.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
Somebody skipped their geography lesson.
Yeah, accuracy is so important, and that's where this data commons comes in. It's really interesting because it's this really robust source of public data, but it's been curated and standardized, so it's not just some random stuff they pulled off the internet. This is from like the UN, the CDC, like the good stuff.
So they are basically trying to teach these AI models to, like, cross-reference their answers with data commons
Yeah.
to avoid, like, creative interpretations of the facts.
Yes, exactly. And they are looking at two different approaches to do this, reg and reg.
Catchy, right? It sounds very, like, technical. So what exactly are rig and rag?
Rig, retrieval interleaved generation. That one is like giving the AI the ability to think out loud and fact check itself. It's actually trained to generate its own questions to ask data commons.
So it's not just, like, spitting out whatever it remembers. It's actually, like, questioning itself.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
It is really cool. Now, RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that one is different. Imagine if you gave the AI a big binder full of like information from data commons alongside the user's question. So it's got context.
Oh, so it's like giving someone a whole report instead of just, like, one statistic.
Yes, exactly.
They've got more to work with, hopefully.
Yes. And they're both aiming to, reduce those hallucinations that we were talking about, those made up things, and improve the trustworthiness. But before we get into that, I kind of want to go back to data commons for a second because I think it's so interesting. Like you were saying, it's like a super powered Wikipedia, which I kind of love that description.
Well, it's not just any database, right?
All right.
I mean, you mentioned where they get their data from, but
Yeah.
what makes it so special?
Okay, so the paper actually gives an example with U.S. data. They have over 180,000 variables at the national level,
Okay.
over 100,000 variables at the county level.
Wow.
So we're talking like really, really granular information.
It's like having a magnifying glass over every, like, corner of the U.S.
Yes.
But how does AI even process that?
Well, that's what's really cool, is that they actually built data commons on a natural language interface. So users like us, and now potentially AI, can ask it questions in plain English.
It's like they knew AI was coming.
Right.
They were prepared. Okay, but going back to how AI actually accesses and uses this information,
Yeah.
with RIG, you mentioned it was like the AI was thinking out loud. So how does that work in practice?
So they fine-tune the LLM, the artificial intelligence, so that it generates both a statistic and a natural language query about that statistic.
So it's like, here's the number I think it is, but let me just double check with the database.
Yes, exactly. But then it takes that natural language query and it has to translate it
Oh.
into a structured format that the database understands. Because the AI can't just,
It can't just be like, hey,
right.
what's up?
It has to be like, if you were going to a fancy restaurant, you wouldn't just go up and be like, give me a burger with everything on it. You would,
You'd have to know the lingo, right?
right. You'd have to know exactly what to ask for.
Okay.
So they translate it. And then finally, data commons will actually return an answer. And this is what's cool. We actually get to see both. We get to see the AI's initial response and the database's response.
Oh, transparency. I love that. So it's not just about it, like, learning to fact check. It's also about showing its work. Does
Yeah.
it actually work? Like, does this actually improve its accuracy?
Let's just say without RIG, some of these models, their accuracy is like 5%.
5%. So much for AI being all-knowing.
Right. But with RIG, jumps up to 58% accuracy.
Okay.
And then their bigger model, a more complex model, went from 17 to 58% accuracy.
Okay, so that is a significant improvement. But, I mean, 58% still means it's getting it wrong almost half the time. I don't know if I'd want to trust that in a trivia game.
And that's where we see some limitations because, data commons is amazing, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
And so, sometimes the AI is asking questions that are kind of off target or they are a little vague and it can't find data commons just can't give a good
It's
answer.
like that friend we all have who's like brilliant, but they overthink the question
Yeah.
and end up like going on a tangent.
Right, exactly. And it highlights that we're not at a place where AI can just, take over and do everything perfectly and we can just trust it. But it does show that we can start to make the AI more accountable.
Give it a little BS detector, which I feel like we all need a little bit more of these days.
Yeah.
Okay, so if rig is kind of like the AI questioning itself,
Mhm.
RAG takes a very different approach, right?
Mhm.
This is all about context.
Yes.
So how does that work? Because we talked about giving it like a binder full of information, but what does that actually look like in practice?
So we've got, with RAG, a smaller LLM that will analyze the user's question, and it will actually generate a bunch of different queries, very targeted, for data commons.
So it's like it's doing its homework before it goes to the library. It's
Exactly.
like, okay, I know I need to go to, I don't know, the history section and I need this book and this page.
Precisely. But what's cool is that instead of data commons returning just a single number, like it might for RIG, it returns entire tables of data.
So it's not just getting like a quick answer, it's getting like a whole like crash course on the subject.
Exactly. And that is where our long context LLM that we talked about, this one can think, has a bigger working memory, basically.
Yep.
It gets the original question, it gets all of those tables from data commons, and then it has to kind of like synthesize all that and generate the final answer.
So it's like the master chef that can take all these ingredients, combine them and create something hopefully delicious.
Right.
Does it work? Is it as accurate as it sounds?
When it uses the information from data commons, 99% accuracy.
99. That sounds almost too good to be true. 99% accuracy. That's just, it seems too good to be true. There's got to be like a catch.
There is a little bit of a catch. So it got 99% accuracy, but it only used the information from data commons for about 25% of the questions.
Wait, so even though it had access to this like incredible resource, it only actually used it a quarter of the time. Why? Why such low usage?
So it kind of comes down to those initial questions that smaller LLM is generating. Sometimes they are a little too broad, or they are phrased in a way that Data Commons doesn't really understand, or sometimes the data just isn't in Data Commons.
So it's like we've got this like world-class detective on the case, but they can only solve the mystery if you give them the clues in a very specific way.
Right, exactly. So super accurate when it works, but limited in how often it can work.
Okay, so, both rig and rag have like pros and cons.
Hmm.
But I think it's so interesting when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture here. This research isn't just about like making AI a bit smarter. It's about like building trust,
Right.
making sure that it's actually giving us good information.
Yeah. Imagine you were asking an AI to analyze climate data, right? Like to
Yeah.
help your town get ready for extreme weather. If it has access to data commons, it could give you really accurate local predictions that could, potentially save lives, save money, all kinds of things. But you have to be able to trust it.
Well, yeah, we wouldn't trust like a weather app that was making up the forecast, right?
Right.
We want to know that it's based on like real information. This does make me wonder though, like what happens when the answer isn't in data commons?
That is the million-dollar question. What do we do when it's something that, the AI doesn't know or that isn't in a database somewhere? It can't just make something up. Like it needs to be able to say, I don't know, or, I need more information. That's something researchers are working on. Like, how do you teach an AI to recognize the limits of its own knowledge?
Because a confident AI that's confidently wrong is not a good thing.
Not a good thing at all.
Not a good thing. Well, this has been an amazing kind of journey into the world of AI fact-checking with Rig and Rag. I have a feeling we'll be talking about this more because this feels like a topic that is like changing so fast.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, who knows what's coming next?
For our listeners, if you want to kind of explore it a bit more, we definitely recommend checking out Data Commons. It's open source, which is awesome. You can go to docs.datacommons.org and you can actually try like asking it questions. Maybe you'll stump it. I don't know.
And we would love to hear from you. Let us know, like, what do you think is going to happen with this whole AI fact-checking thing in the future? You can find us on social media. Use the hashtag AI Deep Dive.
Yes, and until next time, stay curious and keep on diving deep.